Thank you, Chair Murkowski. I'm glad that Senator Cantwell, you mentioned the high energy costs in Puerto Rico, twice what the national average is. In Hawaii, it is 3 times, and Alaska is well aware. Senator Murkowski, our 2 states could become test beds for how we can provide affordable and, in our case, renewable energy to remote areas, something that you and I are very familiar with. Aloha to my friend, Bob Underwood, President of the University of Guam and former delegate to the U.S. House of Representatives. And of course, I'm really pleased to welcome Mark Glick, the Administrator of Hawaii State Energy Office, as one of our witnesses today. I'm also pleased to see our Assistant Secretary Esther Kia'aina, another friend who served as First Deputy for Hawaii's Department of Land and Natural Resources, among other positions of public service to the state of Hawaii. It is incredibly important that we are holding this hearing on islanded energy systems. The people of Hawaii understand the unique challenges that come with living on our islands, but our energy challenges loom especially large. Families and businesses in Hawaii are well aware that they face the most expensive energy costs in the country. With oil accounting for 80% of the energy needs of our state, the people of Hawaii are acutely aware that there must be new alternatives to the volatile prices and vulnerable supply of the global oil trade. We can address our energy needs in ways that are much cleaner using Hawaii's own renewable resources. In 2008, with the advice and support of the Department of Energy, our state established the Hawaii Clean Energy Initiative, a groundbreaking state-federal partnership. We set a goal for 40% of our energy to come from renewables by 2030. And in June of this year, the governor of Hawaii signed into law an expansion of that goal to, listen to this, 100% renewable electricity by 2045. This is the most ambitious plan and goal in the country. Can we get there? Mr. Glick is here to tell us how we're going to do that. Hawaii has already more than doubled its use of renewable electricity in 6 years to 21%. Hawaii also set a goal requiring a 30% improvement in energy efficiency by 2030. According to the Hawaii State Energy Office, the standard has resulted in the equivalent of $405 million in energy savings for Hawaii's homes, farms, and businesses. Hawaii has also established an on-bill financing program to help consumers cut their energy costs by investing in clean energy. Hawaii has benefited from the partnership of the state, the utilities, and the military in finding solutions for an affordable, lower carbon energy future. It will help keep at home more than the $5 million per year that we currently spend on importing energy. So not paying for importing oil and becoming more energy self-sufficient will, of course, mean more money, that $5 billion, circulating in our own economy, creating jobs, raising wages, and helping families make ends meet. It's great that we are focusing today on how Hawaii and other islanded areas deal with the high dependence on oil, high energy prices, and the reduced reliability of energy supply that comes from not being able to connect our electrical grids and pipelines with neighboring states. At the same time, Hawaii is on the forefront of addressing questions that will need answers all across the state and territories of the U.S. How to use energy more efficiently in our homes, vehicles, and businesses. How to get affordable energy from increasingly renewable sources, and how to integrate new resources of energy in the energy infrastructure that supports our daily lives. Thank you, and I look forward to the testimony of our witnesses. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator Hirano. Mr. Glick, welcome.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair Murkowski and members of the committee. Thank you for inviting me to testify before you today about Hawaii's energy ecosystem and the challenges and opportunities faced in operating islanded energy systems in the Hawaiian archipelago. First, the state views our annual expenditure of about $5 billion a year on imported oil is a tax on growth in Hawaii that imposes a significant burden on our residents and businesses. Economics and energy security have driven our push for clean energy, with substantial progress for energy transformation finally taking root once a bipartisan coalition of policymakers in Hawaii's congressional delegation and our State House decided to take bold action. This was embodied in the 2008 Memorandum of Agreement between the U.S. Department of Energy and Hawaii and the subsequent passage in 2009 of the nation's strongest renewable portfolio and energy efficiency portfolio standards, something we call the Hawaii Clean Energy Initiative, as Senator Hirono mentioned in her opening remarks. In 2013, the governor established energy policy directives to offer guidance and clarity for actions necessary to fulfill Hawaii's energy transformation. I'd like to emphasize directives calling for a diversified energy portfolio and relying on clean energy solutions in which the market decides winners and losers. And the results have been strong. The renewable portfolio topped 21% at the end of last year, well ahead of the 2015 interim target of 15%. And the state has reduced electricity demand by more than 1,500 gigawatt hours. To do this, we used the winning strategy of paying off infrastructure costs through energy savings. And Hawaii has led the nation for 3 consecutive years in the per capita value of energy savings performance contracts. Hawaii also leads the nation in solar capacity per capita, even though our isolated grid cannot absorb the percentage of intermittent renewables through the interconnection with a regional grid, as is done on the mainland. So to address these technical challenges and costs associated with incorporating this increasing large percentage of renewables, our electric utilities are working with a host of partners to test and work on specifications of fast trip inverter functionality to avoid transient overvoltage events, model each distribution circuit to determine proactively the amount of distributed energy resources that can be hosted on each circuit, and work with inverter manufacturers to bring market advanced inverter functionality to manage voltage levels to customers. Now, to support these solutions, our office, the Hawaii State Energy Office, focuses more these days on utility resource planning, rate design, and price signals to inform energy stakeholders on the optimal configuration to achieve a growing portfolio of renewable resources. One example I'd like to cite is our modeling of load balancing and storage resources from higher penetrations of electric vehicles. If we assume 120,000 electric vehicles are operating when we achieve a 70% renewable portfolio, peak energy demand, electricity demand, would increase by as much as 20%, resulting in a 10% increase in our need for energy storage. However, if those 120,000 electric vehicles are supported by smart charging and advanced systems to be connected to the grid, energy storage requirements might actually be decreased by 10%. Now, the fact that we are the most isolated population concentration in the world makes energy resiliency and disaster recovery an even greater concern. Microgrids that leverage renewable energy and distributed energy offers great energy resilience. And we have also taken concrete steps to ensure that Hawaii's clean energy transformation is realized by all demographics and communities throughout the state. That's why our new securitized rate reduction bond and on-bill repayment green financing program targeting the underserved residential customers, renters, and nonprofits is so important. So in conclusion, Hawaii's been able to leverage our isolation and the challenges faced in the arena of clean energy to great advantage. Hawaii's been able to attract international investment from governments and corporations that see Hawaii as a bellwether for renewable energy solutions before rolling out to international markets. And this success has prompted the state to rethink the potential of Hawaii's clean energy transformation. The upshot was the passage of the bill that Senator Hirono had mentioned, signed by Governor Ige in June of this year, calling for Hawaii's electric utilities to accelerate the 2020 interim RPS target for renewables from 25% to 30%, and of course go to 100% renewable energy by 2045. Our continued refinement of these targets assists in resource optimization and prevents costly overbuilds, and sets a clear, unambiguous goal of generating 100% electricity from its renewable sources. Our approach in setting targets for utilities is a practical approach to furthering the state's energy policies. So thank you for this opportunity to highlight Hawaii's clean energy leadership and to share some of the lessons we have learned in pursuing our clean energy transformation.
Nobody has really talked this morning about storage capacity. And I know that for the areas that you all represent and are engaged in, we look at the ability to store energy from these intermittent sources as really going to be the future here. What level of engagement have you had with the Department of Energy on these microgrid technologies that you're working on to improve storage capacity? Has there been much work either in Alaska, Hawaii, or the territories? Mr. Glick.
Chair Murkowski, the Department of Energy has provided a great deal of technical assistance through some of the analyses that we talked about in the Oahu wind integration study, as well as the solar integration study, did talk about amounts of storage that would be necessary to smooth out frequency disruptions and other technical problems created through intermittent power. So there have been RFPs that have been put together by the utility to solicit that amount of storage for our systems. But we also believe that it's important to do grid modernization, which will relieve a lot of demand for storage through these trip inverters and other technologies I discussed, which are a lot less expensive. So we have to do both.
And while I'm a very big supporter of Power Africa in the context of the United States should be doing all it can to take U.S. technology and promote it in other areas, it's an embarrassment that we're not spending more time and energy in the United States of America and our territories providing real solutions to the people that live within our boundaries. And we have got to do this. And so I, Madam Chair, am all ears about the solutions that we can seek to do this. This is something that we should do, and it should be a commitment by this government to get it done. Thank you.
Well, you're singing to the choir here. Let's have Senator Hirono join.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and I echo those sentiments about singing to the choir. I am a proponent of the setting of national renewable energy and efficiency standards to encourage the private sector to step forward with R&D. And Mr. Glick, I note in your testimony that Hawaii, you say that Hawaii has been able to attract international investment from governments and corporations. And they see Hawaii as a bellwether for renewable energy. So I wanted to have you talk a little bit more about how Hawaii has been, has spurred this kind of activity on the part of the private sector.
For us, you know, clean energy, as you know, Senator Hirono, has been all about rebuilding our economy and creating this new clean energy sector. Part of it's attracting innovation and with us as in Hawaii as being an emerging test bed, companies like Hitachi with support from the Ministry of Economy and Trade and Industry in Japan have been funneling dollars. About $40 million came to Maui for the smart grid project called Great Maui that is building a microgrid and a smart grid network, also developing bigger networks of electric vehicles and fast charging networks. Very important project which we expect will expand. Through the Hawaii-Okinawa Agreement, which was just signed last week, we're hoping to identify additional projects that could be brought to Hawaii, and also shared resources, some that would be developed in Japan as well. And I think that's the kind of model that we see in the future, continuing to find collaborative projects to test the boundaries of how we integrate more renewables, how do we build smarter, clean transportation systems using clean energy, and trying to track those dollars on very large-scale, real-world demonstrations.
We've heard from some of the other testifiers how expensive energy is in their locality. So again, Mr. Glick, Hawaii created the Green Energy Market Secularization Program, or GEMS, to help more people invest in renewable energy. And this is particularly important to people who do not have the money up front to buy solar panels, for example, but who are interested in saving money in the long term by generating their own power. Can you elaborate on how the GEMS program works in engaging with the public and providing financing options to people, including renters and nonprofit organizations? And do you think this approach could be used in other territories and other states?
Thank you, Senator Hirono. Certainly the GEMS approach, we use rate reduction bonds that are securitized. They're backed, in our case, by security from the Public Benefits Fund, which comes from everybody's electricity bill, a small surcharge. We're able to utilize some of that to back, repay the loans. We're able to get AAA financing, so very, very low costs of money. We then built loan programs around it, targeting small commercial, nonprofit organizations, and also residential market. Those loan products have just been rolled out this summer. And we expect a lot of people to take advantage of that. Very low interest rates on the low side, in the 5 to 6%, on the high side 9%, but compared to other programs, particularly for those who have had difficulty getting financing for solar projects, it's really the only way that they've been able to get financing. And then, of course, tying it to your electricity bill repayment really reduces the risk of default. So I think that's another thing that can be incorporated. I know many states have had difficulty getting on-bill programs instituted, and that's done pretty much on a state-by-state level so far. But on-bill does reduce risk of repayment, so we see that as an important model. As far as the overall capitalization and how bond programs like GEMS could be expanded, we know that the state energy program has, through states and the state energy offices, have managed $2.1 billion in loans. And perhaps the state energy program, through some kind of mechanism like GEMS, could funnel additional dollars. In Hawaii, we think our clean energy installations will exceed $20 billion in capitalization. So we need to find more means of financing to make it more affordable.
I was out in Quigillingok and was able to celebrate with the community there. I think it was either their first or their second day of being completely diesel-free. They had 3 wind turbines, and the wind was kicking up. They had a little battery storage unit that was not much to speak of in terms of size. And then they had, I believe there were 25 different clay heating stoves within homes, and you go inside, roasty toasty. But you think about just this little microcosm out there in an area where your costs up to this point in time are almost prohibitive for sustainability of a village, and you see what they're doing. I was in Igiugig last week, where they are putting in a run-of-river hydrokinetic turbine. It's going to be in the river. It should be in right now. It was in last year for a brief moment in time, but again, private entity is making this investment, realized that they needed to reconfigure, went out, adjusted it. It's going to be back in the water and plugged in to Igiugig by the 15th. So that's just in a few days. You combine that with the wind turbines, the 5 wind turbines that they have, the solar panels that they have, and again, a sustainable community where they have struggled for so many years. Mr. Hodge, you mentioned Kodiak. Kodiak is an amazing example of how you can utilize all of your renewable assets, whether it's the wind, the hydro. They're blessed with great hydro out there, but this is a major seaport, a major fishing community, and to know that they too can be off diesel is a future for them that is really quite vibrant. And I think about all the technologies that we have being considered in laboratories and how you work to get them to commercialization. And I say, okay, that's nice. We're actually making things happen on the ground. I think that some of our laboratories should be looking to what we are pioneering because we have to, because the alternatives are just not working for us. You cannot be a sustainable community if your folks can't afford the heat or the electricity, and so you figure it out. Sometimes it takes a little bit of duct tape. Sometimes it takes begging for dollars from the state and the tribes and the feds, but you piece it together with some really, really bright, innovative people. And through your universities, we're blessed at the University of Alaska, and I'm sure we are at where you are, Dr. Underwood, in Guam. But we are really pioneering this whole concept of microgrid. And Senator Cantwell and I were just talking back here about we've got this very generous eye to the rest of the world and how we can help facilitate energy solutions in Africa and elsewhere. But again, I think to a certain extent, charity begins at home. And recognizing that we definitely have energy needs that are not being met yet, but with a little bit of assistance, and I think looking to the experts, looking to the innovators, this is where it's really happening. And so I commend you all. Mr. Glick, you've got a high standard up there to achieve in achieving or reaching Hawaii's renewable energy goals. How you're going to be dealing with the distributed generation aspect of it and the integration of all of your renewables. Many in the country are looking to you for the example and the leadership. You're kind of pioneering here. So we wish you well in that and are eager to know how we can be helpful and be of assistance. Mira, you mentioned resourcing and some of the programs that are out there, and we've had a little bit of conversation about that today. We have a renewable energy deployment fund, a fund that I established through legislation some years ago. Nice idea, but you got to have the dollars that are in it so that we can help our states, we can help our territories, we can help make a difference in making sure that there is a level of sustainability that our economies can thrive. So appreciate the leadership from each of you and the opportunity for you to share a little bit of the best practices, some of the challenges, but hopefully you inspire not only others, but you've learned from one another and you're going to take some good ideas back to Guam, the Caribbean, Alaska, Hawaii, and throughout all of our areas here. So with that, I thank you all and we stand adjourned.